If I have to start a fragrance collection today, then I will pick these 10 fragrances, not all of these of course, the ones I will mention later in this video, and then maybe I will look to expand my collection from there. But what makes this video even more interesting and little bit tough for me as well, I have kept a few criterias for selecting my perfumes. The first one being the price. I have to select fragrances within the 3000 Indian rupees mark, roughly translating to the $40 mark, with some leeway in one or two fragrances but not by much. And the second thing is that this list should cover all the season, weather and all the situation one can possibly imagine. Because many times we go down the rabbit hole of collecting similar smelling fragrances. In this way you can smartly spend your money and you can certainly substitute any fragrance that you like that isn't present on this list. And if you are watching my video for the first time, do consider subscribing to this channel. So let's dive in. Let's start with two summer fragrances then. The first one is the Khadlaj Carus Blue Spice. Inspired from the Louis Vuitton Imagination, this is a beautiful refreshing summer fragrance. You get citruses along with a tea note followed by a sparkling neroli accord. The citruses are done in an excellent manner in this fragrance. There is a bit of soapiness in the smell, not as much as neroli Portofino, mixed with some green and spicy nuances. Imagine after taking a fresh shower, you are sipping a citrusy summer drink in a hot afternoon. An excellent fragrance for the hot and humid weather, and you simply can't go wrong with this fragrance. By the way, this is a perfectly unisex fragrance with around 5 hours of longevity and an hour of projection. A very decent performance for a summer fragrance, I would say. Also a beautiful bottle to go along with it. I personally feel that the Louis Vuitton fresh fragrances are very overpriced, and fragrances like these are excellent alternatives you can consider. The second summer fragrance that I would consider was a very easy but predictable choice from my side. It is the Armaf Club de Nuit Intense Man, an extremely popular fragrance that has been covered numerous times and for good reasons as well. The perfume which I am holding right now is the EDT version from the first batch. Very strong and loud but a bit rough around the edges. The one I would personally recommend you is the Pure Parfum edition. You get about 150 ml of juice for a shade over 3000 rupees. Inspired from the extremely popular men's fragrance Creed Aventus. The beautiful smoky pineapple with woody facet, very strong attention seeker yet extremely versatile as well. The Pure Parfum edition is a lot smoother and a much more refined take on this DNA. Now this is a super versatile fragrance. You can rock it to office or wear casually, or you can just make this your signature fragrance. This definitely won't disappoint you. It has all the qualities for a successful fragrance. Mass appealing, extremely versatile in nature, as well as superb performance with around 6 to 8 hours of longevity and a good 1 to 2 hours of projection. There are numerous clones of Creed Aventus, but this is one of the most popular out there. But if for some reason you want even more cheaper alternative, I would suggest you to take a look at the Afnan Rue-Broca Theorem Matrix. But it has little bit of twist along with the DNA. There is that spicy sweetness in the base. I will cover that in some other video. Let's now move on to the winter fragrance, or simply cool weather fragrance. Sadly, the winter season has been on the decline for the last few years in this part of the world. But let's take a look at these two very interesting fragrances. The first one is the Bavaria Man Intense, which is a clone of Bulgari Man in Black. And this is an excellent clone in my opinion. I have covered it in a full review, even comparing it with the original. If you are interested, I would highly recommend you to check that video out. It is the spicy, boozy, sweet tobacco with a bit of leather and resinous quality to it. Very smooth, slightly sweet, not as spicy as the Spice Bomb Extreme, yet a very classy fragrance. Now this is a perfume that I would highly recommend if you haven't already tried this DNA. Even though this fragrance is marketed for men, the tobacco and the leather is not that aggressive, and the sweetness makes it a little bit more unisex in my opinion. Extremely versatile but an excellent choice for office. The longevity is pretty decent, but the projection is on the softer side. The second fragrance is one of my personal favorite. When I was starting my fragrance collection, this was one of the fragrances that really caught my attention. I consider this fragrance to be a masterpiece. But you have to keep in mind that this is not as mass pleasing as the previous fragrances were, and not all fragrances are meant to be. It opens up with a spicy, boozy accord with little bit of citruses and a very minute green accord that is definitely present but remains in the background. The leather is well balanced out by the resinous quality of the benzoin. fine. It is not a sweet fragrance, but there is enough sweetness out there to balance out the leather facet of this fragrance. If you want a deep, rich and luxurious smelling fragrance for a very affordable price point, I would highly recommend you to try this one out. It is going to be a very unique perfume and you are going to stand out from the crowd. In terms of compliment factor, I have got several positive ones as well as a few negative ones, and it definitely leans heavily towards the masculine side. In terms of performance, it is excellent, absolutely excellent. In cool weather, I get about 8 hours of longevity with very good projection for the first 2 hours. Once I had sprayed it on clothes and kept it just like that, I was still getting whiffs of this fragrance after 3 days. I am not sure about the performance of this fragrance nowadays because this bottle which I am currently having is 10 years old. I think this can be a great starting point for your fragrance collection. Give it a try and see whether you like it or dislike it, but know that it smells much more expensive than it really is. For some reason, if you don't like it and you want a safer fragrance, then consider the Latafa Kingdom. The full review of that fragrance is up on my channel, so check that one out. How about 2 date fragrances now? One for the hot weather and one for the cold. For the warm weather, I would pick the Latafa Al Nasama Caprice. Inspired by the YSL Lanvin de L'Homme Blue Electric, this one is a beautiful cardamom fragrance with a prominent lavender note, giving it the versatility of a blue fragrance, yet extremely unique and mass pleasing as well. It starts with a juicy citrusy accord that gives volume to the spicy aromatic cardamom smell. There is also a freshness from the ginger, but it settles down very quickly and the powdery lavender becomes more and more prominent. This fragrance has got a seductive allure to it. Although this fragrance can be worn at any time of the day, I think this would really shine in the evening. The longevity is around 6 hours on clothes and a mild projection for the first hour. This can also be a great formal event perfume in my opinion. The second date fragrance, the one for the cool weather, is the Alvatania Cayenne Classic. It is the clone of one of my most favorite fragrance ever, the Dior Homme Intense. This perfume, like the original, has a very strong focus on the iris, very clean and powdery, mixes up with a chocolatey sweetness, smelling like an expensive lipsticky makeup smell. It is a perfectly unisex cologne. The performance is on the average side, but that can be discounted for a very high quality and well blended fragrance. Expect around 5 hours of longevity with around an hour of projection, which is not bad for a date fragrance to be honest. But the next 2 fragrances, we want extremely strong performance since these 2 are clubbing fragrances. For the warm weather, my pick would be the 9 PM Rebel. You will get that very sweet, sugary pineapple smell, very juicy and realistic in nature. And as it starts to evolve, it dries down to a green and woody fragrance. Very youthful and playful in the opening, to a somewhat mature dry down. You can find the full review of this fragrance on my channel, but touching the performance briefly here, it is simply a beast mode fragrance. And if you watch my reviews carefully, I generally don't categorize many fragrances into the beast mode. In fact, very few of them. Expect around 10 hours of longevity with around 3 hours of strong projection. Just what you need for a clubbing fragrance. The next fragrance of this list is even stronger. It is from the house of Ahmad Al-Maghribi and it is the O'Clock. You can also consider the Afnan 9 PM, but instead of picking the same brand over and over again, I picked the O'Clock. In the opening you get that fruity sweetness, but it is more of that green apple rather than the pear, which you find in the Jean Paul Gaultier Ultra Male. You will also notice with most Ahmad Al-Maghribi fragrances that the concentration of the perfume is slightly on the higher side, and most often than not, they have really great performance. Besides the fruity and sparkling opening, it is more of that sweet vanillic fragrance, with the lavender giving it some clean aspect. This perfume lasts about a day on clothes, with projection around 2 hours. By the way, both of these clubbing fragrances are perfectly unisex and are well suited for the casual events. And to the last section of fragrances then, I have picked 2 special occasion fragrances, the ones you might want to reserve for special occasions. The first one is the Bainsec from the house of Ahmad Al-Maghribi once again. It is probably one of the best perfumes from that house and a great entry to the oud based fragrances. Now oud can be very polarizing in nature. It can be slightly pungent, acidic and barnyardish at the same time. But this one is combined with the rose and saffron along with lots of sugary element as well as the amber. This is the most Middle Eastern smelling perfume on this list. This is inspired from the Initio Perfumes Oud for Greatness and the price is slightly more than the 3000 Indian rupees mark, but it is totally worth it. But if you want even more cheaper alternative to this, then you might want to look at Badial Oud for Glory. but I would recommend you every time to save up your money and go for the bin sake. It is very high quality and very smooth and definitely a big upgrade over the Oud for Glory. The performance is not an issue for this fragrance. It is very loud as well as long lasting. I would highly recommend you to watch the full review and also try a decant if possible before considering a full purchase. The next fragrance is much easier to like. It is the Latava Khamra Kahwa. I consider this as the best Khamra fragrance, which even includes the new Khamra Dukhan. You will get that signature syrupy sweetness with an added beautiful roasted coffee note. A warm, sweet, gourmand fragrance to consider for the holiday season. This is perfectly unisex and people really love this smell. And you are going to get lot of compliments with it as well. If you loved this video, hit that like button, and if you find anything value of this video, do consider hitting that subscribe button as well. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on my new videos. I would be interested to know what fragrances you would have considered if you were starting a new fragrance collection. And if you have any feedback for this or any of my previous video, feel free to comment down below. I absolutely love the discussion going on. So that's it for today's video. I will meet you all in my next video. Till then, stay safe and as always, stay honest.